Hey everyone, Hybrid Toy Reviews here, and as 2022 wraps to an end, it is time to start talking about the top 10 figures of the year. So, every year I do one of these videos where I think about every figure that came out this year and I just make a top 10. Some years it has been so hard to rank them that there's no particular order. This year I did come up with a particular order. I did also have a few stipulation type rules. So, for these rules, I did not elect to factor in any lines that are like non-canon repaints. So, Gaming Greats made the cut, but the credit collection and the holiday figures didn't make it. They wouldn't have made the top 10 anyway. I was debating doing like a 5 worst figures of the year, and honestly, by putting that rule in effect, I made it to where I could only think of one figure for the year that I didn't like. Like, the rest of them are good. That is a testament for how good this year was for us Black Series collectors, I truthfully gotta say. So, another rule. I have seen a few people with their top 10 lists, including some figures that are not released. So, I have a stipulation there. The Clone Wars Darth Maul wave and the Ayla Secura wave, I have the Grief Karga, the Axe Woves, and the Ayla. Maul and Grand Inquisitor are on the way. I had to get them all from weird retailers. Now, Axe Wolves and Grief Karga came in stock on Shop Disney a few weeks ago. They weren't going to make the top 10 list. But I've seen where people are saying their favorite figure of the year is Clone Wars Maul. Until you can go to Target or go on Amazon.com or find them on the shelf at Walmart, I do not consider that release. You spent like way above retail to get them imported from overseas, or you found that one oddball one that showed up at a mom and pop comic shop. They're starting to trickle in, but they're not released. I consider the Clone Wars Mall wave the January 2023 wave at this point. So, you'll not find any of those, 7 figures for that wave. You're not going to find any of them on this list. Another thing is there are figures that I didn't pick up this year, so I didn't tend to factor those in. I never picked up the Client, for instance. I don't think he would have been a top 10. I had no interest in picking up the Client. So, maybe there's something that's in your top 10 that's not in my top 10, and it could be that we have different takes, or it could be it's just something I didn't buy. With these price increases, I'm no longer a completionist. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into my top 10 figures for the year. Before getting into the top 10, there is an 11th figure that I view as an honorable mention. So, my honorable mention is the Arvala 7 Mando build-up pack. This was a Target exclusive. It is basically that Episode 2 look where his armor is all battered from the Mudhorn. Their big selling point for this figure was that they used a weird paint technique where it made it feel like there was a muddy texture to it. I gotta say, I really like how this figure turned out. I like that early Season 1 Grogu prim. I like the egg accessory. It's just a really cool figure. It is a little bit of a retool, a lot of reuse, but I really just like how this figure turned out. All in all, I'm very happy with it. Number 10 for me is the GameStop exclusive Gaming Greats 501st Clone Trooper Jet Trooper from Battlefront 2. We also see basically these exact same clones in the Siege of Mandalore arc for Season 7 of Clone Wars. In that first episode where Anakin and Obi-Wan are dealing with the droids on the bridge, so it doubles as a cool Clone Wars figure. This is a really unique combination of old clone body parts with new clone body parts. I wish he came with a normal blaster or the rocket launcher to make it game accurate. He only comes with the pistol, but a very fun figure and one that I'm personally very happy to have in the collection. Also, how could I make a top 10 list without at least throwing one clone in? They are the best troopers. Up next at spot number 9 is the publishing line Princess Leia. This is from a newer Marvel comic book. I don't read the comic books. I don't really follow too much expanded Star Wars outside of movies and TV shows, but this is just a really cool outfit for Leia. It's a lot of reuse from her Bespin Escape figure from back in the day. They've put new boots, new gloves, they've given her a cape, it's a new hair for the head. It might be reuse of the head from Endor, maybe, maybe not. But There's some reuse, there's some redoing here, and it's just a really cool Leia figure. I'm personally very happy to have this one in the collection. It made the list for spot number 9. At spot number 8, we have the other Mando build-up pack from this year. It is the Maudo Crace Mandalorian. It is basically just his silver armor with a frosty, icy paint effect over it. I really like how it came out. It just makes it look like frosted metal, just like it did in the show. Just a very cool way for this figure to be. It's just a variation. I think it'll be really nice to use for figure photography outside in the snow. The Grogu and the little ice spider egg are not really doing much for me, but that ice spider is amazing. It is a beautiful sculpt. It's lacking a little bit in the paint department, but it's a really beautiful sculpt, something that is just really cool it just adds a little bit of flavor to the shelf. So all in all, it locks in the number 8 spot on the list. At number 7 on the list, we get the Deluxe Dark Trooper from The Mandalorian. This is a new figure from top to bottom, and it was done very well. It has a lot of good sculpting beats to it, a very nice glossy black paint job. The joints are plentiful and far-ranged in their movement. It's a very fun figure to pose around. It balances well. It has very big feet, so you have to get him in some pretty weird poses to get him to topple. All in all, it's just a super cool figure. I'm very happy with it. It's not just a cool representation of a cool character, it is objectively a good action figure, and that's how this list works. There might be some characters you don't like, but if their figure's good, that's how they got here, and this is a really good figure, and one that I would recommend to anyone. Coming in at number 6 on the list is one that GameStop massively fumbled the bag on the distribution of. It is the Gaming Greats Umbra Operative ARC Trooper from Star Wars Battlefront 2. It is basically just a black ARC Trooper with a yellow skeleton, like a techno skeleton paint job to it. Came out really good, though. It's a cool looking action figure. My Battlefront 2 days have slowed down a lot since before the ARC Trooper got dropped, so I don't really have a lot of time playing with the ARC Troopers in the game, let alone having earned this skin, but it's a cool looking action figure on a really good base body, and all in all, a pretty good addition to the collection, even if you, like me, don't have much attachment to the source material. Here we are at number 5, and I did tell you that some of these might be controversial, right? I don't care what you think about the character, I personally don't mind her, but number 5 is Reva from the Kenobi show. This is a amazing likeness. One of the times that photoreal has just absolutely shined. This looks so much like Moses Ingram. It's just an overall amazing likeness. The figure has some really good sculpt work going to it. It's basically just a generic Inquisitor's type of style, but it has some good articulation to it. Everything's pretty seamless. She comes with 3 lightsabers. They didn't try and do something where the hilt pegs together and then can separate into 2. They just gave you the 2 halves or a full hilt. They didn't give you 3 hilts and 2 blades. Everyone has its own blade. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming with this. I mean, they could have said deluxe with that amount of accessories. Glad they didn't. But all in all, Reva is a great figure, and she rightfully deserves this spot as number 5 of the year for me. At number 4, we go back towards the beginning of the year with Echo from the Bad Batch. This is a good figure. There's a lot of nice sculpt work going on here. There's a little bit of trooper type reuse, but it's a beautiful representation of the character in the show. They've done amazing with the emaciated Tamura Morrison likeness. I love how they gave him the little claw accessory for the stump hand, even though that didn't make it to the show. Hot Toys did that too, where apparently they had a lot of attachments that they might use for the show that never made it past concept art. But it's cool that it's included. It's just a great likeness. There's a lot of fun posability here. It's one of those figures that I haven't put in the cabinet yet because I keep picking it up and just posing and playing with it. So, Echo, great figure, number 4 of the year for me. Coming to the number 3 spot, we get a figure that was released in a less than pleasant way. It is the Deluxe Cobb Vanth. This figure has no business being a deluxe figure. However, it is objectively a plenty fine figure. I love the Timothy Oliphant likeness to it. It has some great articulation, some nice accessories. It nails the look. I like the paint wear and tear on the Boba Fett armor. It is just a great representation of Cobb Vanth. all in all, I'm extremely happy to have this one in the collection, and to me, it is the number 3 figure of the year. It's a character that I really wanted, and I wasn't disappointed by anything other than the price, but you got to get that Boba Fett tax in there. It's Cobb Vanth, number 3 of the year. As we get to number 2, man, number 1 and number 2 were almost interchangeable, but I think number 1 just edges out number 2 a little bit. For number 2, we have Ahsoka Tano from The Mandalorian. This figure has some amazing sculpt work going on here. The butterfly joints being hidden with the orange flesh color for the exposed shoulders. Just amazing creative sculpt work there. It's absolutely seamless in those butterfly joints, and I love that. I like the knee articulation hidden in the baggy pants. They've done as well as they possibly could there. I think it turned out really good. The Rosario Dawson likeness, just chef's kiss. As you see in the background, I had one of these signed by her at a convention, and seeing her next to the figure, yeah, that's a good likeness. That is a rare opportunity to have a figure next to an actor, and side by side, that is her. That's a great likeness, a great figure, and an absolutely worthy contender for the number 2 figure of the year. For the number 1 Black Series of the year, according to me, and this is something that I called way back early in the year when I finally managed to get my hands on this figure. Back when I did the review, I was like, this might potentially be a figure of the year, and man, nothing this year has outdone it for me, is the Black Series Fennec Shand from the Book of Boba Fett. I love how this figure turned out. It is an amazing likeness, another shining example of Hasbro's photo reel, just absolutely nailing it. There's a lot of intricate sculpt work to this figure. Her costume in the show has a lot of raised patterns, and they sculpted everything. They didn't print anything. And sometimes when you have a lot of weird sculpt work on a costume, it tends to hinder articulation, but Fennec is one of the best articulated Black Series figures I remember getting in some time. So between the likeness and just it being a good action figure, and that's what it is. This Fennec Shand figure is just a really good action figure. I'm very happy to have it in my collection because even if Fennec isn't a top 10 character, she's a highly ranked one for me. I love Fennec. Even if she isn't, one of your top 10 characters, this is a well done action figure. Just from an engineering standpoint, I respect it, and I think it's Hasbro's best of the year. So here we are at the end of my top 10 figures of the year. I understand that some of my choices are probably very different from your choices. I personally love these type of top 10 list type videos, so I've seen a lot of other creators do theirs already. I know that mine is one of the more different lists. I've seen some of their lists are a little bit more similar. When you take away the possibility of having Grand Inquisitor Aayla Secura and Darth Maul on that list, it definitely frees up about a third of the list to be different from theirs. But, there's some figures that I've just really liked from an engineering standpoint, and that's really it. It's a top 10 figures of the year list, not a top 10 characters of the year list. And arguably that Reva figure, like the character or not, the figure is engineered better than some of the other figures, and that's, just how the cookie crumbles in this one. So, end of the day, it is ultimately an opinion-based piece, and there's a lot of different opinions that anyone could possibly have about this type of content. So, tell me where your list varies. Am I just completely barking down the wrong path here? Or have I maybe swayed you? Have I reminded you of a few figures maybe from earlier in the year that you're like, oh yeah, actually that is a really good one? Let's talk down in the comments below. Also, above that, but below the video, is a description full of a variety of my friends' channels. We are at the end of the year, and they have been absolutely amazing people I've gotten to know this year. We're forming a nice little community, and everyone down there, I appreciate you greatly. I appreciate your friendship, and I'm excited to see how we can all, do in the coming years. So I'm going to go and get to work on some other videos. Thanks for watching my top 10 figures of the year list, and hopefully you haven't just ran for the hills as soon as I said that Reva and Cobb Vanth are good figures. So I'll catch you all next time. Until then, may the Force be with each and every one of you. Bye!